Good evening, everyone. Today's session is on softwares. What are the different types of softwares we have? What is system software? What is application software? So today we are going to learn about how to use what are the types of software and how to use those softwares, right, in our system. So everybody is using softwares while using the computer, but they don't know like these are system softwares or they are application softwares. So let us discuss about what are system softwares and what are application softwares. So first of all, we will be starting with our first software, that is system software. When we talk about system software, these are the software which provides the basic functions that are performed by the computer. They are not interacted with the user. Yes, so the main thing behind the system softwares are they are not interacted with the users of the computer, right? Whereas when we talk about application software, these are the software which are actually used by the users to perform the specific task. Like I might be using a PDF, right, for using for uh, basically for showing the class, or you may say for presenting anything, or you may say like when you are using Word, MS Office, or PDFs, or when you make any, when you use any interface, right? So that would be your application, right? And that is coming under the category that is called application software. So application softwares are those software which are basically directly interacted with the user, and the user is going to use that particular software for according to the purpose. Like suppose I want to create my financial date sheet, right? What all transactions that I have made during this year. So I might be using Excel sheet, right? So that is what, that is an application software. And if I'm going to use, like I'm making a meeting record or MOM kind of a report kind of thing, I might be using MS Word, right? Or for different presentations I might be using different tools or different packages. So I am interacting, I am the user, and I am interacting with the user with the software. So that would be my that is called application softwares, right? This is basically used for performing any specific task. Like in the first document I was making my financial report, in which I am keeping all the transaction, I am putting all the transaction that I have uh, done during the past year, right? So that means I am going to use the Excel sheet. Suppose I am going to make a report every day, I have some meetings, so I am making a detail of that, or I'm maintaining the record of that. So I might be using some software that is MS Office, right? So there are different softwares that are available in the market, and according to the user requirement we are going to use that software. On the other hand, there is system softwares. Now what are system software? They are basically not directly interacted, they are basically not interacted with the user. They are basically meant for maintaining our system, maintaining our computer, right? Like you have your device driver, you have your antivirus programs. So these are basically the system software interacts with the hardware, right? They are not interacted with the users, whereas applications are interacted with the application softwares are basically interacted with the users. So this is what the difference between when we talk about the system software and application software, right? So this is a brief introduction to the both the types of softwares. So let us see what is the hierarchy for our softwares. First of all, we have the users. We are the users of the system, right? And we interact with what? We are interacting with the application program, right? Application software, like your MS Office, your Word files, your PDFs, your any file you are using, that would be a application software. Now after this application software is need to be interacted with the system softwares. Now what are system software? Your operating system is itself a system software. And then we have the system software is directly interacting with the hardware. So we are not directly interacting with the hardware. It is the system software which actually interacts with the hardware. So this is the hierarchy for a software. Like we have the users, we have application softwares, we have system softwares, and then we have the hardware part. So let us start with the first point, that is what are system software, right? So I have already discussed this thing, what is the meaning of system software. System software provides basic functionality to the computer. We are not talking about it is giving the basic functionality or for performing the specific task that is basically used by the user. No, we are not talking about like the user is interacting with the program. No, not the user is interacting, it is the application software which we are using. The user, always when a user comes into a picture, we are having the application software. But when we have system software is actually used for maintaining the system, right? Maintaining the computer. So for maintaining the computer, we have the system software, like your device drivers, your antivirus programs, all these are coming under this category, that is system software. So the user of computer does not need to be aware about the functioning of the system software. So like suppose how the operating system works, how it is managing the hardware, how the device drivers are taking care of like the different software, different devices. So it is not required for the user to understand, right? So system softwares are not meant for like users to know about like what is going on. It is the like actually the users are more interested towards what they want. Like suppose I want to create one presentation, so I need one software, right? I am not going into the detail how this software is going to interact, how this particular software is going to be installed in the system, or how operating system keeps on updating, right? I'm not going to see the detail part of this, right? Because it is only required like when we have the system softwares, it is only maintaining the system, right? It is not talking about like how we are interacting, right? So basically user intervention, user interaction is not present in the system software, right? So when you request, so for example, we can take an example. When you buy a computer, right, the system software would also include different device drivers. You might be using some wireless mouse, you might be using some other devices like which you need to be interact with the computer, right? So how they are going to work, right? So when you request for using any one of the devices, the corresponding device driver software interacts with the hardware device to perform the specified request. So yes, it is not any other software, it is the system software that is going to interact with the hardware device, right? For interacting with the hardware device, the system softwares are required. If the appropriate device driver for any device, say a particular model of a printer itself, is installed on a computer, the user does not need to know about the device driver while printing on this printer. So you need not like you need to perform the task, you need to use the printer. You need not like to know about like how printer is installed with your, how it is connected with the, how this hardware is connected with your computer. It is the role of device driver that is going to interact, like it is the system software that is going to interact with the hardware. Your job is to like to print the page, or your job is like this only. You are not bothering about how the hardware is interacted with the computer, right? So the next thing is we have is purpose of the system software. Yes, it is very much required, both the types of software, whether it is application software or whether it is system software, both are mandatory for the system. You cannot say I don't have any application software, or I don't need any system software. No, both the softwares are mandatory while you are using any computer system, right? So let us see one by one the some of the advantages and some of the importance of these system softwares. So basically when we talk about the system softwares, it basically provides the functionality of the computer, right? We are not talking about it is providing the specific functions that is basically performed by the user. No, here we are talking about to provide basic functionality to computer, because it is the system software which is maintaining the computer. Yes, the very important point is to control the computer hardware. So for maintaining the hardware, for interacting the for interaction with the hardware part, system softwares are required to act as an interface between user, application software, and computer hardware. So we can say that it plays a very important role, because when we talk about OS, operating system, yes, it is the system software. It is basically acts as a mediator, or you may say it acts as an interface between the user and the application programs, whereas controlling the hardware also, right? So when we talk about system software, it is broadly divided into two categories, right? So the first part is the system software that is made for computer management, like your operating system, your device drivers, system utilities. The second thing is for developing softwares. So here we have programming languages, translator software, and linker and loader. Okay, so yes, it is one of the type of system software itself. So everybody should know this thing, like when we talk about the two types of category, what are those two categories? One category is totally about your hardware part, and another category is totally about like how the process is being controlled, how they are interacting with each other, right? Then we have system softwares. So system softwares for the management and functionality of computer relates to the functioning of different components of the computer, like your processor, like your input and output devices. So yes, very much system softwares are required for managing the operations performed by the components of computer and devices that are like your printer, your keyboard, your mouse, everything is connected to the computer itself. So how they are how they understand what is the what you which command you have sent it to the computer, how it understands. So it is the system software that makes them understand. So another important part, your operating system, device drivers, and system utilities constitute the system software for management of computer and its resources. So managing the computer resources, so we require the system software, because without it, it is not possible to have that kind of thing, like without system, I told you, without system software or without application software, nothing is possible, because your system is not going to work have uh, if you don't have the system software or application software. And then another feature is system software for the development of application software, provided services required for the development and execution of application software. So yes, I told you, it is an interaction between the application software and computer hardware. So it acts as an interface between both the things. Very important part, operating system, which is a system software itself. So operating system is an important part of a computer. Yes, OS intermediates between the user of a computer and computer hardware. So like you have different hardware components on your system. It might be your CPU, your IO devices, your memory, that is needed by the application program. So OS is the main system software that allocates the hardware to the application softwares, right? So OS controls and coordinates the use of hardware among the different application softwares and the users. So it is like this kind of thing. You have OS, you have hardware, right? Then we have application softwares, and then we have users. So it is basically user is interacting with the application software, and how for controlling this application softwares, we have system softwares that basically allocates the different resources. Like suppose I might be requiring printer, or I might be requiring CPU for some program execution, or I might be requiring the scanner. So these all are my hardware components, and these are basically controlled and coordinated by operating system, right? So the first rule, the major function of operating system is what? It provides an environment in which users and application softwares can do work. So yes, here we can see that these can only be able to work with the help of operating system. So that's why I told you application softwares and system softwares both are required when we are talking in terms of computer system. So it manages different resources of computer, right? Whether it could be your CPU time, your memory space, file storage, IO devices. During the use of computer by other programs and users, operating system manages various resources and allocates them whenever required efficiently. So yes, basically you have different components, different hardware components, right? And if you are like you are using these components, how the operating system is basically managing this, like this hardware to be allocated, or this hardware to be allocated, or this hardware to be allocated, that basically depends on the user request, right? Then another important function of operating system is it controls the execution of different programs to prevent occurrence of error. So sometimes it happens you when you are using any hardware and you are coming across any error, like any interrupt or any type of error. So yes, it is the operating system that is basically preventing the occurrence of error. Then we have it provides a convenient interface to the user. So in the form of commands and graphical interface which facilitates the use of computer. So basically it is the interface between the application program and the user and your hardware devices, because without hardware devices, what the user needs, your application program needs to be saved somewhere, needs to be stored somewhere, needs to be like it, if you are going to use those word files in future, so how, where you are going to save it, it is with the help of system software, that is operating system, right? Next we have is what are the different operating system that we are currently using. You might be using MS-DOS that was earlier used, and Windows 7, Windows XP, Linux, Unix, Mac OS. There are number of operating system which are basically available our for managing our resources, right? Let us come to the next part of system software, that is device driver, right? So here the device driver is what? Device driver is actually acts as a translator between the hardware and the software that uses the devices. So suppose I want to use any printer, or I want to use the scanner, so how I'm going to interact with that hardware, right? So that is the device driver. So device driver acts as a translator between your hardware and the software that uses the devices. In other words, it intermediates between the device and the hard software, right, in order to use the device. Suppose I might be using printer, I might be using scanner, or any other device, right? What is that? So these devices, how I'm going to interact, and how these devices are going to understand my command, right? So it is the device driver which basically acts as a translator between the hardware and the software, right? Next is, let us see some of the examples of device drivers. Some devices that are commonly connected to computer are keyboard, mouse, hard disk, printer, scanner, webcam, joystick. There are number of hardwares that we are going to use while using the computer system. For example, suppose I'm talking with, like, I'm going to have the next thing, that is for proper working of a device, its corresponding device driver must be installed on the computer. Like suppose I'm going to use the hardware, right? So I'm going to use the printer, right? So printer means like how I'm going to interact with the printer. There must be some command that needs to be sent to the computer, how the printer is going to understand. So that is the device driver, that is a translator between the hardware and the software. So when we give a command to read data from the hard disk, the command is sent to hard disk driver and is translated to form that the hard disk can understand. The device driver software is typically supplied by the respective device manufacturer. So whenever we purchase any hardware, the device drivers are also like available for that particular device, right? So like we are going to install those programs into our system so that we can use that particular hardware. Like suppose I'm going to use a printer, so I need to install the printer specification first into our computer system, so that device drivers I need to install it, because how my commands are understood by that machine, because I need to use that device driver that can interact with the particular hardware, right? Suppose let us take another example. Suppose I'm going to have the program, like let us take another example, like programmers write the different programs in high level language, or code independently language, how of whatever specific hardware devices it ultimately use, because the code and device can interface in a standard way. Like it is not possible like every time you are going to give the command that is understand by the system. So yes, there must be some translator that is going to break those high level commands into low level uh, series of codes so that the computer can understand, right? Let us take one more example. Like you have compute operating system comes preloaded with some commonly used device drivers. So nowadays what the companies are offering, they are already installing the device drivers, like device drivers for the mouse, webcam, keyboard. Nowadays we are not going to install everything, right? So inbuilt the device drivers are there in your computer system. So operating system comes with that particular part, right? The device drivers of these devices are pre-installed on the computer. No need to have another thing like you need to install that before using that hardware, such that operating system can automatically detect the device when it is connected to the computer. So automatically when you like they when you plug that device like your mouse or keyboard or webcam, as soon as you connect it to the computer, it starts working. Why? Because the particular device driver for that particular device is already preloaded into the operating system. So we have the advantage, like rather than the user is going to install it, it is already preloaded in the operating systems, right? Now let us see some of the things, like some of the example. Each device driver has its own, each device like your printer has its own device driver, mouse has its own device driver. Whenever a new device is connected to a computer, its device driver has to be loaded in its computer memory to enable the use of device. Like suppose I'm not I'm connecting to the printer and I'm not using the device driver, so the uh, that particular printer is not going to understand the command that is sent by the computer. So yes, it is very much required. When you buy a new printer, you get a device driver CD with it, which you need to install it before use that printer, right? Otherwise you are not going to use that particular hardware, right? Now suppose so there are device drivers like CD of a printer, Sony audio recorder. So you might be using the device drivers for different appli so for different devices, right? Let us complete the this topic also. What are system utilities? System utilities are like your antivirus software, right? So suppose it might be possible like whenever you go for updation, it might require like these are the updates that have come for maintaining your system. Or there are it might be possible there are some virus in your system. So if you have antivirus utilities programs on your system, yes, it is going to help you out. Like most commonly is Avast antivirus or MacFree antivirus. There are number of antivirus, not any antivirus. There are number of antivirus softwares which are available for maintaining the computer system, right? So what are those? They are system utility software is required for maintenance of the computer. Why it is required? Because if you think like if a virus is there in your system, yes, it is going to work. No, because it is going to like put some error files, or it is the system becomes so slow that you are not able to use that system, right? Like you click on somewhere and it happens like a copy of that file is made, so they that means your system is having virus. So system utilities are basically used for supporting and enhancing the programs and data in the computer. So it is the system software or system utilities which basically helps you out in this case for maintaining your documents, to basically to secure your documents from viruses. So antivirus utility to scan computers for viruses, data compression utilities to compress the files. You have number of softwares which is used for compressing the files. Psychographic utility to encrypt and decrypt the files. Disk compression utility to compress the contents of the disk for increasing the capacity of disk. Disk partitioning, yes, again this is one of the system utility. Uh, which basically is to divide the single drive into multiple logical drives so that you can save your programs in different drives. Each drive is then treated as an individual drive and has its own file system, like shows in the hard disk, right? So you have hard disk, then you have different components that disks get divided into different partitions. You may store there, you may store anywhere in your any one partition. Disk cleaners, yes, so it is also a system utility. When like system cleans your system, it asks you about like, now there is a time to clean your system, now there is a time to remove some of the files which are replicated, or to delete your hard disk is full. These kinds of messages are coming, which is basically are which are basically the functioning of disk cleaners. So disk cleaners to find files that have not been used for long time. Might be possible there are some files which you are not going to use it, and they are just kept for not usage, like actually, right? It helps the user to decide whether to delete or when the hard disk is full. So whenever like your hard disk is full, you have some outdated files or some reloaded files, you need to clean your disk, right, every time. Because when you clean your disk, it would be like capacity is increases, you can store anything on your system, and it affects the speed of the system also, right? So always try to have the uh, disk cleaner, that is on your system, so that it gives you a number of advantages. So hope you have understood like what are system softwares. Specifically we have focused on system softwares. In my another lecture I will be telling you about specifically about application softwares. What are application software? So that is basically what is the difference between system softwares and application software. When we talk about system software, it basically focuses on the system only. It is not going to interact with the user. It basically its main function is to focus on the computer only, right? For maintenance of the computer, for basically for enhancing the speed, for providing the resources to the users. So it is, or you if you are using any hardware components, it is going to use the device drivers. So hope you have understood the concept of system softwares and like this session. Thank you.